Yay. Hi. How
There she is. Hey, Kimberly, how are
are
you?
you? Hi.
Uh,
I'm good. How are you?
Aloha. Yeah,
Aloha, I should say.
aloha, welcome.
Yes. You're on the
I am
motherland. So tell me what
on the
island
main
you're on.
island of Oahu. It is. Are you
Oh,
familiar
okay.
with Hawaii? Of course, for sure. Okay.
Yes. 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 I am deeply, deeply connected to the motherland. And if you want to get, really in there, I would tell you I'm Lemurian,
I do.
if you know what a Lemurian is.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
we have that.
Okay. There
We
you
have that
go.
in common.
Yes, good, good. My book too, I highlight a past life in Lemuria and how
Okay,
it correlates with what's
we're
happening
going to talk
today.
about that
So,
then. Interesting you bring that up. Interesting you bring that up. So usually, when I log on, I give everybody a few minutes just to kind of come into the room. We can small talk, and then I make introductions, and we can go from there if that's okay. Okay, cool.
yeah, yeah,
But
absolutely.
we can talk about Lemuria. Um, so two things about that. In Hawaii, in the early 70s, I want to say 1972, 73 maybe, there was a group here, a jazz group, uh, a synthesized
Yeah.
jazz group here in Hawaii called Lemuria. Same spelling.
Hmm.
And it was one of my favorite
Uh-huh.
bands to listen to because it was that type of music was brand new to Hawaii. We didn't have that kind
Right,
of music then. It was a lot of
right,
synthesizer music, um, not
right.
many words. In fact, I don't think there were any lyrics to the songs,
Oh, very cool.
and
Very
it was
cool.
just a
How
vibe.
interesting.
It was a good vibe.
I feel I feel like I've come across maybe some of that music in my,
Hmm.
doing research when you start like going down the rabbit hole and like you come across like a band because I know
Yeah.
I've come across a band named Lemuria in my research. So that is so interesting. And I was born in 72.
Oh, you're
So,
still a youngin' then. You're
mm.
very young yet.
Yes,
So
yes. I have many years
that's
ahead
the
of me.
tenacity in you. That's what it is. Um,
Yes,
so I
yes.
did have a mentor that was helping me in my journey. Someone I had met a
Hmm.
couple of years back, and she was helping me with my healing process after trauma, a
Okay.
personal trauma, and
Yes,
we
yes.
connected a lot. We talked about a lot of things that we were so familiar with, finding out that we
Hmm.
had connections in two past lives. And
Nice. Yes. And that's very, very
is it?
common. Very common. Yes, yes. But finish your story and I'll tell you
Okay, cool.
why that happens.
She called me one day and said, "Hey, listen, have you ever heard of Lemuria?" And I said, "Yeah." And I told her about the band. She said, "No, I'm talking about the place." So this is the first time I'm hearing about this place now. She said,
Yeah,
"Do me a favor. I
yeah.
want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to send you her energy, and I want you to tell me what you see." I said, "Okay, I will." So we did that for a few minutes, and I said, "Wait a minute." So I see three people in this vision.
Nice.
Two of them is a mother-daughter connection. The other person is me.
Okay.
So I am looking at
Very
this
cool.
two people, two females. One is obviously older, the other is
Yes.
younger. The younger girl is on her knees. She's scooping water from like this pool in the ground, beautiful pool. They're in this
Okay.
cave
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
looking up, and in the middle of this cave there's actually a huge hole where you can look out and look at the sky. And there's water falling
Yeah,
into this pool.
yeah.
And I told her yes,
And the wind coming in
yes.
probably makes sound as
And
well.
we
Yeah.
said no
Yeah, yeah.
words whatsoever. Our skins
Hmm.
were darker in color. She is,
Telepathic.
yeah, she's
Telepathic.
actually,
Yes.
in this life,
Yeah.
she is Caucasian, so very fair skinned. But in that vision I had, both of them were almost darker skin.
Like almost like a silvery dark.
More like I want to say like a Creole type dark, not quite chocolate brown type of dark, but they
Okay. Yeah,
had
yeah, yeah,
long
yeah,
flowing
yeah,
hair and all they wore was white.
yeah. That's they sound okay. So in my book, there's a couple of different
Okay.
types of Lemurians, right? And those ones sound like the land
Okay.
Lemurians. Um, and we could go so deep into that. But basically, when Gaia
Mm-hmm.
birthed herself. That's how I explain it in my book. Is the greatest honor of a soul is to be able to graduate to a place where you become the planet that feeds the
Okay.
life, right? That's like the ultimate goal of a soul to experience is being a planet, and that's pretty much a long
Yeah.
journey. But anyway, long story. So the first beings that came down, or as I see it, angels, souls, however that is for you, as Gaia was birthing, were the Lemurians, the light beings here to help fortify her as life continued
Mm-hmm.
to blossom. So the land, the Lemurians were really in charge of the animals of the land and the lands itself, making sure it flourished. The sky Lemurians, right? Not that they flew, but they
Okay.
lived in the trees. They were for the sky animals and the dragons, and then there was the sea. I mean, very much like what legends that are based on when we think of like mermaids or even Avatar. But every legend has a common theme, right? Every legend, you can trace this back. And there was a being of people before the Atlanteans, and those were the Lemurians. It was one piece of land surrounded by
Mm-hmm.
water. And when evolution started to occur, or some believe that we were experiments,
Right.
whatever you want to say. Basically, when ego came into the planet, you can't have this type of human, this type of being, this type of
Right.
creation without an ego. Free will creates ego. Our choices create ego. So that's of course what came to Atlantis fighting the Lemurians in the fall. But the very, very tip of the highest peak of the Lemurian land was called Mu. It was the name of the mountain. And Mu is the highest peak of
Yeah.
Kauai. Kauai
Right.
is Lemuria. Kauai is the mother of the
Okay.
motherland. And um, as far as souls go, when we do come back in reincarnation, we often enlist those specific souls that we have had past lives with, because number one, we usually have to kind of make up a karmic cycle. I don't like using the karmic word, but in order to cancel out
Okay.
debt, think of it that way, we usually do
Right.
contract with souls again. So, when you're in a group of people that you've never met before, but you suddenly just like, I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to partner with that person if I can. When suddenly, I mean, that is because you've been in a past life with them. When you're walking into a room and you're like, wow, this
Yeah.
feels like deja vu, and it's a really old
Yeah.
building, that's because you've been there. There are no coincidences. All of these things and people that come into our life is because we designed it that way, because we
Right.
have a purpose right here, right
Amen.
now, in
I
this
like that.
moment.
This person was a mentor. We met on another streaming platform, and she was just getting started to
Nice.
go live. And I've been on that platform for a few years, and
Oh yeah, yeah.
I was looking for help. I was looking for someone to explain things to me, why I feel a
Right,
certain way, why my moods switch up, and
right.
how to get out of that negativity and the rut. And I was led to
Right.
her room. I tapped on the icon and it opened up her room. And the greeting I got from her was
Yeah.
just like meeting an old friend and I haven't seen for years. And it was
Yes, yes,
so comfortable.
exactly.
It was familiar. It was as if I just saw
Right.
this person yesterday.
And that is because we forget the bottom line to all of this, man. We're all
Yeah.
connected, you know, and that is, it, it's so simple that it's almost
Yeah.
too hard to get your head wrapped around that every teeny tiny piece of us is just a little droplet of God, right? And dude,
It,
we're
the,
all the same
the
thing,
funniest thing is,
right?
I'm surrounded by different types of people throughout my day, and I find that the ones that are so brilliant and so educated and so book smart, when it comes to the most simplest of things, when it comes to the most commonsensical things, it blows their mind.
Yeah.
They don't understand it. It's totally foreign to them.
It's, I don't think it's that they don't understand it. What I think it is usually really intelligent people who are book smart, right? Who were put into structured learning early on and continued with structured learning. Stepping outside of those guidelines is
Yes,
so foreign to them. It's that
yes,
fear cycle, right? So, to get someone to step out of that fear is you have to replace the feeling of fear with something else. And that is why, when we go to these events, these big, growth con events, and, when I do a speaking engagement, and when you see a really good speaker, by the end of that speaker, you just, oh my gosh,
yeah,
I feel so good. When you can replace that fear with a feel good feeling, they'll remember that. They just have to know what it feels
mhm,
like just for a second to step outside of that. And it's like, wow, that's empowering. I can do this, and but you have to stay consistent with it too. You can't just um, encourage someone one day or just go to one event one day and think
right,
that it's going to last for the
right.
next 50 years because it's not. You have to be consistent with those little tasks that bring you joy, or you end up just like you said, just these little programs that are extremely intelligent but can't see anything.
Yeah, yeah,
Are
yeah.
you there?
Uh,
Oh, okay.
that makes a lot of sense. Growing up, everything in my family was about education. Get a good education. That's the only way you're going to make it late in life is go to high school, finish that. Go to college, finish that,
Right,
and everything was
right,
just so structured. And when I was
right.
given the opportunity to break out of that structure, that was kind of made for me by my parents. And now I'm on my own and I'm in college and I had no idea what I was doing. I had no direction. I had very little motivation. I was just existing in the now, trying to live that one day and get past it, go to the next day, get past it.
Because you
Yep,
you never had an opportunity to discover what
yeah,
you truly want
I
to
didn't.
do,
I didn't. And I think
you know?
talking to my
And,
siblings, we all went through the same thing because everything was
yeah,
programmed within us from the day we were born. This is what's going to happen. This is what I
yeah.
expect.
And, and I I grew up so different. My dad was this stock genius, but
Uh,
he was also a con artist. And my mother, she, oh my God, beautiful woman. Like, wow. My father was extremely good looking too, but so she used her beauty to get what she wanted, right? She was everything I never wanted to be when it came to a woman. And her big push was just get married, marry a rich man, just get married, marry a rich man. And so my dad would be in prison. My mom could care less what we were doing. I pretty much was raised by my sister. So I mean, I had no direction whatsoever.
mm,
I'm a high school dropout. I got my GED. Yeah. Still went to college and got certifications and all that, but there was no point in me being in high school because I was acing the test. They had to push me up from 10th to 11th grade, but I wouldn't do the homework. Why do I have to do the homework if I'm acing the test? Explain this to me. Like that was my
that's so
attitude.
funny because I didn't study. I didn't like to do homework. I would never finish and
Right,
complete it, but when I took the test, I always got aces. And
right.
right.
You just got to do a quick
And my
little
brother and
study and you're
my
good.
sister, I have a twin, so she could never understand. We're in the same
Oh,
classes.
very
We
cool.
had the same courses. We had the same teachers, and they couldn't understand that it was day and night between the both of us. Where she would do,
Yeah. I have
oh,
twin
that's
boys, so I
awesome.
totally
That's awesome.
understand.
That's awesome. Before we go on, why don't I make introductions so we can start a video if
Yes,
that's okay? Interesting, very interesting.
yes.
We're going to continue that conversation. For those of you just joining us tonight, today is February the 4th, 2023. I am so blessed to have our guest tonight, Kimberly. Toko is your last name, Kimberly?
Hello. It's Kimberly Toko, and they call me
Tenacious T.
Tenacious T.
If you're not following Kimberly
Yeah.
on Instagram or any of her social medias, you can find that in her Instagram link. Tenacious Angels is her Instagram.
Yes. Or you can go to
Oh,
tenacious360.com and that'll take you to all of
that's
my
your website. Yep,
platforms. Yeah.
got that on. And
Yeah.
before we go on from here, I just wanted to do a short disclaimer, a short uh, trigger warning, just in case we will be talking about some heavy, difficult things, maybe a little bit later in our discussion. So if that's not something that you would like to be a part of, you're more than welcome to log off for a little bit, but come back because we will be talking about a lot of interesting stuff. We'll be talking about a lot of things that
Yeah.
Kimberly is coming up,
Dark, dark places. Dark places. We're
but
going to go
we're
to some
also going
dark
to talk
places.
about how to get out of those dark places if we can, right? Yes.
Yes,
So with
exactly.
that, I
Exactly.
want to
Yes.
welcome you, Kimberly. Welcome to our 3 plus me is what I call it, our live, and everybody here
Thank
who I saw a lot of new names that have joined our stream. I'm assuming they are probably your followers. Uh,
Yeah, probably. You know how it is. I didn't have my assistant sending these out, so
yeah, I
hopefully they'll just
can see
come
them coming
on,
on.
right? And that's, that's what we want. We really want
Yep,
a message like this when we're talking deep, heavy topics. We
yep,
want the people to naturally come to us that need to hear this rather than just,
yep,
throwing it in their face. They become, and you know how this works. It is
yep,
truly an energy. And at times, having conversations like this,
yep,
you never know who needs to hear it. And you never know what your story, by sharing your story, is going to do for someone, especially if they're in the darkest place they have ever been and they're making choices that may cause them to leave this world,
yes,
right?
and I probably will
So,
be sharing something with you that I probably have never shared in my life before with anybody in public. But
good, good.
welcome to everybody. I just saw one of our community members come in, Shonda and Tiffany's here, so welcome everybody. Um, we were talking earlier about connections. We were talking earlier about um, soul connections for sure. We're talking about
Yeah,
Lemuria. We're talking about the
yes.
motherland, and you're right about
Number,
Kauai. I've been told that before, that Kauai is actually what's considered motherland, and I was freaked out by that because it's
yes,
so true. Out of all of the,
yeah,
so there's in our chain of islands, there's about 197, I believe, in the archipelago of our island chain, but
wow,
only 6 of them are
yeah,
really modernized and developed. And
right,
Kauai is known to be the most spiritual of islands of the 6
yes,
that
yes.
are
The uh the the koa wood there, does it only grow on
it
Kauai, the koa
it
wood, or
does
does it
grow
grow
on
on the
all
other
the other
islands as
islands,
well?
but there is certain things on Kauai, and I believe it's because of the type of dirt that is there. Uh,
Yeah, there's something about the koa wood on that island when I got to go. Oh my God. And I guess you cannot make furniture out of it unless it's
right.
naturally fallen to the
It's a
ground, is from
protective
what I
wood.
understand. So, oh my God. My dream is to have a Cowood table and a Cowood rocking chair. So I'm putting that out there right
Hey,
now.
I might help you research that and help you find one for you.
Nice.
But it is
Nice.
a protective wood here in Hawaii. And
Yes.
if it's not
Yeah.
naturally fallen, which even if that's the case, there's people who come out here and actually pick all that up already. But it's not
Yeah.
it's illegal to do it commercially. You have to have certain certifications and
Right.
license. But of
Right.
all the islands, if I'm not mistaken, the coal wood on Kauai is actually a more reddish color than all of the other islands
Yeah.
because of the type of ground that Kauai is. There's like a red dirt there.
Yeah. So the dirt there, this is what's, very interesting. And I know I haven't, I'll touch base on my story in just a moment, but Sedona in Arizona, I don't know
I
if
have
you've
not, but
been
I
to
know of it.
Sedona. Sedona has the same
Mm.
red dirt. And Sedona is considered the Gaia's
Oh,
heart.
really?
So so Kauai is the mother, is the home of the mother, right? So if you think
Hmm.
that is the womb, Sedona is
Wow.
her heart. So and it's all the dirt in Sedona, the entire area is red like that, consistently red. And it has the most vortexes in one area than anywhere
Wow.
else on the planet that are that close together. So yeah, so and I'm in Arizona. So see, you're in
That's
Hawaii and I'm
amazing.
in Arizona. Let the
Yeah,
magic
they
happen.
have a company out here that sells red dirt T-shirts and red dirt logo
Yes,
wear, and I believe it's
yes.
from Kauai.
And isn't there like a beer or something? Like I feel like there's a amber beer. I don't know if it has
There's a
anything to do with
couple
the
of
red dirt, but
microbreweries here in Hawaii. I believe there's
yeah,
three of them total. One of them is from Kauai, though, so I
yeah,
know that.
yeah.
Um, Kimberly,
So um,
Kimberly is also a number
I don't
one
know if you want
bestseller,
to go in and
a
yes,
motivational
yes,
speaker. Of course, I'm finding out she's also an awesome realtor and a certified
yes,
spiritual healer. If can we talk a
yes,
little bit about the your number one bestseller? I know you said that you're an author.
yes. And this actually is the base of how everything
Oh,
came to
okay.
be in my life right now. So um, we're just going to go
Absolutely.
into my story a little bit. So 12 years ago, it was just an average Tuesday morning. 3-year-old twins, 14-year-old Brian, 13-year-old Jason. Got the twins ready for breakfast. I was a stay-at-home mom at the time. One of the twins has autism, so there was a lot of therapy and things going on. Husband's a firefighter. He's getting ready to go to a union meeting, and I fed the twins. The two older boys are coming downstairs, and you know how it is. They're like, But that morning, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be that domestic goddess mom, and I made them breakfast sandwiches, right? And I was all excited and had the table all laid out, and Brian and Jason come down there, and Brian sits down and he looks at the food, and he's not going to want to eat it, but he
Mm.
starts eating it anyway. And Jason, the 13-year-old, now
Mm.
Jason is 6'1" at 13. He can pitch at 80 miles an hour, and he's a straight A student, and he's just, he's that cool kid. And Brian's like the Johnny Depp,
Okay,
right?
I
The
gotcha. I
sulky
gotcha.
kid. So Jason looks at the sandwich and he pushes it and he's like, I'm not eating that. And I'm like, there's starving kids in the world. You're going to eat you know
Right.
how we get as parents. Like, what is your problem? You have everything going for you. Knock it off. And my husband came down, and Jason like stood up from his chair so fiercely that he
Mm.
knocked that chair down. And he was right in my husband's face, and the hair on the back of my neck stood up. He had never, he'd never been like that. And it was shocking. And so my husband said, look, you're not going to school. You're going to wait till I get back from this meeting and we're going to talk about this. He looked at me and he's like, get Brian to school. I'll be back. So he leaves. and Jason, I sit down in Jason's chair and Jason looks at me and he just says, "I hate you." And I roll my eyes. You know, we'd never said
Mm.
anything like that in our house. And I'm looking at this again, 6'1", 13-year-old, obviously pubescent, just being so off. And I'm just like, "I hate you too. Go upstairs." So he goes upstairs and I hear this phone ring, and a little bit later, my husband calls me and he says, "Where's Jason?" And I'm like, "Well, he's upstairs." And he's like, "Well, I can't get a hold of him. Can you go find him?" And I'm like, "He's upstairs. I just heard him throw his baseball." Because again, he's a
Mm-hmm.
pitcher. You know, that's what he does. So I go upstairs and Brian's walking behind me, my oldest boy, and we go to Jason's room and he's not there. And I start calling his name. I go to the twins' room. We go to Brian's room. We go into my master bedroom, and it's laid out in such a way you have to veer off to the
Mm-hmm.
right into the bathroom, and the bed's on the far side. And when I got into the bathroom, I smelled gun smoke, gunpowder. And at this point, I'm screaming into the phone, "What's happening?" I smell gunpowder, and I check all the guns, and they're there. They're not loaded. And I'm like, what is happening? Where is Jason? And suddenly I heard my older boy say, "He's there, Mom." And when I looked over to the far side of my bedroom, his feet were on the other side of the bed. The other side of the bed where I had forgotten I keep a revolver for when my husband was at work and I was alone with 4 boys in the house. So I told Brian to go downstairs, stay with the twins. I didn't want them seeing this. And I came around, and sure enough, he had shot himself right here. And his body was still breathing. So, of course, you know, you go into action. I wrapped his head, and with the other phone, I dialed 911, and my husband the whole time was turning his car around. But he died before they got there.
Wow.
And you might be asking yourself, like, you know, what does this have to do with the book? What does this have to do with real estate? And you see, when you lose a child, you don't want people to forget them. And when you lose a child to suicide, the only thing people remember is what was wrong with that family and what was wrong with that child. They leave behind a foundation of suicide. Their choice leaves a ripple effect. And why? Why is the unanswered question. So I started a baseball charity almost immediately. I knew I was going to have to do something because I couldn't deal with the pain. And for a while, the baseball charity helped. But I wanted to share this story. I wanted people to know what was happening. When I tried to talk about my son, nobody wanted to hear it. They would ask, "Oh, what happened to your child?" But when I would say suicide, they immediately would shut up. The stigma that follows suicide is
Mm-hmm.
so debilitating. Sorry, one sec. And I often give this illustration as an example. If you over the weekend found out you had a malignant tumor and you go to your employer on a Monday and you say, "Hey, I just found out I have a malignancy. I'm going to need a week off to be with my family and decide what to do," that employer is going to embrace you, is going to say whatever you need. But if you go to that employer and you say, "Over the weekend, I almost took my life and I need a week off to be with my family and decide what I need to do," what do you think that
More than
employer is going to do?
likely.
You're automatically mentally
Mm-hmm.
ill, red flagged. The stigma has made it impossible to talk about, and it's also its best friend. A lot of people don't realize that over 130 people take their lives every day, but over 4,000 attempt suicide on a daily basis, every day. And it's not just because of a mental illness. And these were the things that I was finding out in those first 2 years after losing my son, and getting on the news and getting in the newspaper, the things I was trying to do. It just wasn't enough because no one's going to listen to a sad little mother in the corner. I had to become successful. I had no choice but to become successful. But how was I going to do that? I still had three children, two of which were special needs. My husband's a firefighter. I have to find a way to work from home. We're living in shitty rentals. I'm drinking wine every night. How am I going to do a 9 to 5? I'm not even healed myself. We had a bankruptcy. We had a short sale. So I had no choice but to at least try to get us into a home, get us out of renting. And I had heard about an extenuating circumstance loan that if we could prove our circumstances were extenuating, which
Mm-hmm.
we could get the loan. So I started working over 1,000 emails, and 2 months later, we finally got the okay. We could buy a house with a grant and the extenuating circumstance loan, but we couldn't find a real estate agent to help us. Not one would help us because every single one of them said it will never go through. You may be pre-approved now, but when it comes to closing, it won't go through. We've never seen it done. We're not going to take you shopping and down that road just for it to not happen. So that meant I had to get my real estate license. So in 18 days, March of 2013, 2 years after I lost my son, I got through real estate school, and 45 days later, we
Wow.
closed on a home. And it wasn't until that moment that I understood something. When I saw my twins running around this bright lit house, because we'd been in shitty rentals, right? One income. And my older boy picking out a room, I saw there was resilience, there was life again. And when I gave those keys to my husband, he had a foundation again. He had a foundation, feet again, a secure place for his family. He could start to rebuild. And I felt
Mm.
joy again. For the first time, I felt joy. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give back a portion of my commission to help families who have been through hardship start a new chapter. And that's what I did. And I doubled and I got awards. And finally, by 2018, March of 2018, I had my
Wow.
first six-figure month, giving back over $200,000 to families at this point. And I felt that success. I felt it. And I said, okay, now I got to get on national television. And lo and behold, 6 months later, I got the attention of HGTV, and they put me on the inaugural episode of Pool Hunters. Then I needed a podcast. So I taught myself how to edit, and I started a podcast. And that's when I knew it was time to launch my book. So by the end of 2019, I had completed the book. I had had a successful show. I'm a top real estate producing agent, and I'm able to overcome. I have learned things along the way by diving down into the deep side of the soul and learning from teachers why these things happen. And March 11th, my birthday, 2020, that same horrible month, I launched the book and a beautiful stage show, Stories of Overcoming, because that's what I do. I tell stories. 3 days later, COVID hit. But we stayed at #1 for 2 weeks, and I went back to university, perfected my craft, and we're launching again. And Tenacious Healing Tour is
That
taking
is so
place this year.
awesome.
Yeah.
If you find your way coming to Hawaii, I definitely want to be
Oh,
there.
I'm
Okay.
coming, man.
All
I'm
right, you
coming,
need to
man.
let me know. I definitely want to be there. I want to meet you in person. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Earlier when we were talking, I said that I was going to talk about something that I've never mentioned or made public. There are very few people in my life that know this part of my life. Um, and it was in a
Yeah.
very dark time before I was even a dad, before I even got married. It was after, right after flunking out of college, not being able to find my way, find my motivation, to have that guidance. And every time I turned back to that one familiar area of having that guidance, which was my parents, I was always
Yeah.
told, you're an adult, you're supposed to know.
Right. Right,
and I'm
exactly.
supposed to know what.
Exactly.
And here in the meantime, my older brother is doing well in college and going to be graduating
Hmm.
to become a doctor. My twin was doing
Right.
very well, was going to graduate from college. My younger sister was graduating from high school, and I am the older of the two twins. I am kind of like the middle child, but I'm lost. And I had,
Right. Yeah. You're
I,
the black sheep. You're the
that's
screw
me.
up in the
That's
family.
me.
Yeah.
I'm the guy that will shoot
Yeah.
his mouth off and nobody
Yeah.
likes to hear it, but I tell you the truth. I'm the guy who will
Right.
go and get tattoos on
Right.
my back and nobody else likes that because they think it's
Right.
demonic. I'm the guy that
Yeah.
had
Yeah. Yeah.
a mullet
I,
haircut
I'm
and
the
and
same way.
diamond earring studs in my ear, and I was the only one in my family that did that, and
Right.
everybody said you weren't raised like that. But nobody knew and nobody understood, not even my own parents. Because there was a time in my life
Right.
where I had many thoughts of suicide. There was a time
Yeah.
in my life,
And that's the point is, you're so not alone in that. And it doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. It doesn't mean that. What it means is we're being pushed to a point of really testing ourselves. Because suicide
hmm
is free will staring back at you and asking you to choose. And in that moment, if you, like you said, feel alone and that you're just worthless and that you're not contributing to this
see,
planet.
for me, I think the biggest thing was seeing my siblings, my classmates, my other peers, being able to
Right.
navigate life and making decisions and doing well. And
Yeah.
and I feel so stagnant. I felt like there was no worth. I felt my self-esteem was like
Right.
nowhere. There was nothing.
Self-esteem.
And even if I tried to bring it up with my family, or I was afraid to bring it up with my parents because all I get that, what's the matter with you? What's wrong with you? Why do you think like that for? I
Right.
mean, that doesn't solve
Right.
the problem.
And
I want you to get to the root of the problem. I need you to help me, but all you're doing is pushing me
right.
further and further and further away. And I,
Right. And it's because we as parents don't take the child seriously, because in our minds, like with my own son Jason, oh come on, they're starving kids. We tend just to push aside their feelings because there's no
but
way they can be
but
that
I,
serious.
it
Come on,
invalidates
right?
them, and I felt invalidated.
Right.
Yeah.
Very much so. Very much. It's a form of abuse. It is. And I will admit that. There is an ugly, to everyone's truth, there is an ugly side. The last words to my son were, I hate you too, before he went upstairs. And I
Mm.
highlight that in my book. That so I mean that every horrible thing that could happen in that moment just happened. Like
Yeah.
that. And it's like, how do you live with that? Number one. And then how do you change
Yeah.
that into something else? And that has taken a long road, but I
So may
did
may
it.
I say something
And
without sounding
yes,
insensitive? Um,
no,
as
go ahead,
someone
yes.
who had those feelings of invalidation, of feeling alone, of not knowing where to find this help, and realizing now that it wasn't just in that one portion of my life that I had trauma. It was a lifetime
Right.
of trauma building
Mm-hmm.
up where I'm
Mm-hmm.
I'm
Yep.
drowning in
Yep.
it and I don't know what else to do,
Yeah.
and I don't want to feel this pain. I don't want to feel this uh, not being able to feel like I'm contributing to society. I don't want to feel
Right.
like a failure,
Right.
which everybody around me reminds me of how I'm a failure
Right.
because I couldn't make those
Right.
hard decisions. Um, like with in your case and your son, if you probably know this already, you probably realize this already. The For me, I lost a child as well. in a different manner, but that's still not the easiest thing to do as a parent. Um,
Sorry. No, no. It's a club no
exactly,
parent should have to join. The last thing in the baby book
exactly.
shouldn't be the obituary. It is the most unnatural thing in the world. And it's and I'm so sorry for your
Well,
loss. You know,
this
that
is
that that
this is
needs to
how
be
I
acknowledged.
see my loss, and I think hearing your story and kind of understanding, and as you were telling your story, I started to kind of get that vibe, that energy is like, okay, wait a minute. Everything's starting to piece itself
Right.
together now. All the pieces of the
Yeah.
puzzle, our conversations,
Yeah.
our voicemails, and
Right.
everything started to come
Right.
together. I'm like, I get it. I understand. But for me, my loss of my child 26 years ago, and it was very hard for me. It brought me back to that dark place, and I didn't understand that then.
Yep.
It took me all these years later to understand that I needed to go through those times that were very difficult for me to understand and
Hmm.
appreciate the better times. I needed to go
Right.
through that loss of something, of someone so important to make me understand
Yes.
that their loss, and like in your case, you didn't let that incident, that one event, uh, dictate the rest of your life. You chose
Well,
to actively make decisions. This is where the healing part comes in for a lot of people, a lot of you who are listening, those who'll be watching the replay later. When you make that conscious effort, when you make that decision, when you have the tenacity to say, I refuse to be
right.
stuck and in this one point in my life, and I refuse my son's
Yeah.
memory
Yeah.
and his legacy to be known as this
Yes.
is what happened to him. If you look up the word
Yeah.
tenacity, if I may, it is defined as the quality of being very determined. It is the quality or fact of
Yes.
being persistent or continuing to exist. And that
Yeah.
defines what
Yes.
you did. In that moment of that loss,
Yeah.
you took that loss. You not only made it a positive, you not only made it a gain, but you more than tripled that. So that the memory of your son, the legacy of your son, and the rest of your family is not
Yes.
stuck here in this one point of life because
Correct.
it has moved
Correct. A
on
hundred
to
percent.
now. Yes, this
Yeah.
happened in our family, but we didn't live in that.
But it
We have
was,
to go through that. This
yeah.
is where we live now. Does that make sense?
And and it totally makes sense. And I can take this a little bit further. Um, First, I would like to say how I come up with Tenacious Tea. When just after I gave the keys to my husband and I came back to our shitty rental, waiting to move into the new house, right? I remember sitting down at a computer. I was having to borrow clothes from my sister-in-law because I didn't have the business attire, any of that. And I said, well, Jesus, what do I have? I am this, yes, a very intelligent woman, but I've been a stay-at-home mom for 4 years. And what do I know about real estate? But I had tenacity. So that's exactly how I signed the
Yeah.
first email. And then I would just start introducing myself. And I just decided, okay, Tenacious Real Estate, Tenacious Productions, Tenacious Angels, Tenacious Thoughts. I slowly built the brand, right? So that truly is all I had. I had, even to get my real estate license, we had to use our tax return money and the money in a
Oh,
change jar to
hey,
get the
I've
license. It was because one income with three boys. It was just
I've
like,
been
oh
there.
my God.
I had three kids
But
and I had two growing boys, and even
yeah,
now I'm like, all right, guys, sorry, we're on a budget this month, so this is where we're at. But oh, but dad, I need this. Dad, I
right.
need that.
Oh yeah,
Right.
because I'm still building, and you
Yeah.
invest a lot when you start taking these
Yeah.
tours. You invest a lot of money. So so let me give you an
Okay.
even more complex. Okay, let's take, both you and I have had very difficult journey pretty much from day one, right? And we talked about how
Mm-hmm.
souls feel familiar, and that, we kind of look at crossing paths with the same souls over and over. So I want you to dig deeper and actually picture yourself as a soul. You're ready to come down into your next life, your next reincarnated human experience here. And you're like, okay, I really need to become a very spiritually awakened being in this lifetime, because there's things that are going to happen in this time frame that I need to really have my gifts on board. So I need you to come in my life and be my son, and I need you to leave me early, because I need that sledgehammer, because without that sledgehammer, I'm never going to awaken to my true power. So each and every time you make it through these sledgehammers, you cannot help but feel that even though the pain is there, you've learned how to live with it, and you've also grown so much deeper in your inner wisdom. Like you just said, everything you just said is correct. And how would you have known that if you hadn't have been through what you went through? And how many people are you teaching that to now? If they understand that by choosing life, the ripple effect it has on their own DNA, their family and friends around them, and the planet itself, and for their next life, because the only thing we take with
Mm-hmm.
us is who we become. Choosing life each and every time, it's never going to be easy, but there's something that comes in, as you know, there's a peace that comes in, and then abundance flows. I am doing things that I've been dreaming of doing since a small child, and I'm almost 51, and I, I'm still
Mm.
starting a new adventure, you know,
I like that. Yeah.
and that's my reward. That's my reward, and my legacy for my son.
I think in one of your posts, I remember you talk about God spark. I've never
Yes,
heard the term before, but
yes.
I really like it.
It's my own. It's my own thing. Everything I write is 100% channeled in that moment. I don't pre-write. I sit down and I write. Sometimes it's because I took a picture of myself and I caught an emotion that I wanted to express, or sometimes I'll start writing and I'll find a picture to match. I like using my own face because I can express the emotion of the piece that I'm writing. Um, So,
Mm-hmm.
we often hear about twin flames, and we often
Yep.
hear about, soulmates. Well, we have a lot of soulmates. And I, I truly believe, I don't like using the word twin flame. That's kind of a generic, I don't know, teenage adolescent label. There is a frequency that is the same as yours. Two by two, they came, two by two, they were made. When we exploded into billions of souls, it was in twos, because the yin and the yang,
Mm-hmm.
that were twos, right? And if you think of a human experience, a soul that wants to experience being a human, they do have to split to become the
Mm-hmm.
feminine or the masculine, each side of the coin. And if you're lucky enough, your paths will cross. You're meant to cross in each lifetime, but when your paths do cross, and I'll use Elena Cardone and Grant Cardone, okay? Now, on the surface, they look like, oh, they're just, billionaires and people we don't want to bother with. But behind the scenes, when you actually get to find out what they're doing, they're bringing back the yin and the yang. The mothers will be honored for being just
Mm-hmm.
mothers, right? They're they are women to be honored, and they're bringing that back. So when you cross paths with that same frequency, there's no denying it. No denying it. The second it's right here, and it burns, and it's the God spark, because you're once again whole. and it ignites it,
I
and you
like
never
that.
forget it. I mean, it's your next until your next lifetime, and then it starts all over.
I like that.
But
I
yeah,
when I saw
so
that or heard that in one of your posts, I kept trying to figure out. I wonder what she means by that. I wonder what she means by God spark. But
right.
that makes a lot of sense.
So there's another way to ignite the God spark, and it's what I teach at the end of my speaking engagements. I have gongs, a lady with gongs usually there too. But I take you on a little journey in the last 5, 10 minutes, depending on how much time I have. And I take you on a journey that brings you to your highest and best self. And in that moment, you'll feel the burn in the heart. And that's what I want to implant. That's the seed I implant when I give a speaking engagement or an event. I have them leave there knowing what that feels like. Not in the solid form of coming together with your twin flame, but the
Hmm.
curiosity again. You have to be curious about life. And when you feel something within you that you've felt it, but you didn't recognize it, and you recognize it in those moments, in those dark hours, with that gun in your hand, you're going to remember that. You're going to remember that. And that will get you to pause. 5 minutes, 1 hour, one day. That's what I teach. The reset.
That is what you meant, I believe, by finding the passion within and underneath the pain. And I
Yes.
think we you also talked about teaching ways or finding ways to totally eradicate suicide.
Yeah. Yeah. The beauty of everything that I'm doing is it is following the path and the vision that I had. In order to eradicate suicide,
Yeah,
we need to share our story. Because right here, right now, you shared something you've never shared with anyone during our little conversation, right? And you felt safe to share it and you
no,
didn't feel weird to share it. And if 10 million people this year get to feel this safety of, hey, this is what I went through. This is what happened to me.
yeah,
Is it okay? Am I normal for thinking this? And then if you find yourself in that dark place again, you're going to be like, you know what? Kim was there too. She knows what this feels like. And look at her. She's still
absolutely,
fighting every day. She's changing
absolutely.
lives every day. If she can do it, I can do it. She's
She's
51.
51 with the tenacity of a 26-year-old. I tell you that much. Okay,
Yes.
so I'm
Yes.
gonna admit to a couple things. I think so for me, when I find someone on Instagram whose energy, whose vibe that I just really find fascinating, whose story is like, man, I totally like what she's, um, the message that she's giving. I totally like her vibe. I totally like her energy. And at first, I was very intimidated.
Oh,
I, oh yes, and
really?
I'll tell
Oh
you this much.
God. I hear that. I
That's not a
hear
bad thing.
that. I hear that a
It's
lot.
not a
And
bad thing,
it's
but
like,
it really felt like I'm stepping out of my comfort level of having guests who are on. Now,
aw,
we've been doing our lives now for since last June, every week. So I don't know how many weeks is that all
yeah,
together, but it's been a while. So I've gotten used to being in
right.
positions as a manager in different industries.
Sure,
I don't
sure,
mind being in the forefront. I don't mind being in that moment where, I'm giving directions. I'm very good at it. I like being in. I don't like to be the center of attention,
yeah,
but I'm okay with being in the middle of everything and pointing fingers and giving
sure.
directions. And I really liked that. But when I looked at some of your posts and I try and figure out, man, what is this person about? What is this tenacious about? And
Right,
I couldn't quite get it the
right,
first 4 or 5 posts that I saw, but still I had the curiosity. Still I had that
right.
I need to find out who this person is. And
Right. That's exactly
like you,
it.
I believe two things. I don't believe things happen by coincidence. I believe everything happens for a reason.
Mhm.
Every reason has a purpose.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that much I believe. Um,
Yes.
and when I was led to your profile and actually started to look at your post, if I'm already looking at your post, I'm totally interested because something about you, your
Yay.
energy, I as an empath or super empath, what I call myself, I can
Yeah.
feel others'
Yeah.
energies. I can feel others' vibes. I can
Right.
see their auras. And looking at yours, I'll tell you, like I said, I was intimidated at first. I said, I'm a back off. I don't think I
Yeah.
want to talk to this person yet. I think I need to kind of get my little comfort zone with this person. But I kept going back to your profile and said, okay, wait a minute, let's figure this out. Okay, wait a
It's
minute, let's figure this out. And then it all started to make sense. So I said, I'm going to message her. I'm going to find out if she's interested. I'm going to find out. It might be out of the blue. And I know Instagram, social media, you have a lot of people who just come and troll other people.
I I do, and I'm very quick. You know, it's either block and delete, or a quick. You know, these are my services. This is what I do. I often say hi or good morning. I do reach out to random people just because that's part of my requirement to give joy to others every day, is just those little things. And you had a great vibe, man. I was like, yeah, and it's Hawaii. That's my. I used to go to Hawaii all the time. It's Jason. It was one of his favorites. I was just talking to another woman today about Kauai. Um, so I have a different energy. I know. It kind of gives that vibe of
I
unapproachable,
okay.
but
I'm
I'm not. I'm very nice.
I'm not going to say you felt unapproachable. I knew I had enough comfort.
Okay,
I
good.
knew
Yeah,
I had
yeah.
enough confidence and comfort that I could approach you without feeling
Good,
like you
good.
would totally shoot me down. That much I knew about you. What I was
Right.
feeling like is this
You know,
person, her level of intelligence is so way above me that
aw,
I don't know if I can hold a conversation with her. That's where my confidence level was at that time. But as we started to kind of talk a little bit more
right.
and I started to look more into some of your profiles, I actually went back to almost the beginning of your Instagram post and I started to see. So the
Yeah,
word for me that I saw through your posts as I kept going on and on and on and looking at a few posts here and there was an evolution of a person. There was a
yes.
growth of a
Yeah,
person.
yeah,
There was, at the beginning,
correct.
I saw, and this is how I see it in my head, I saw this seed.
Mm-hmm.
I saw this seed
Mm-hmm.
that needed planting, that needed fertile ground. I saw this
Yes,
seed that
yeah,
needed a place to call home. I saw a seed that
yes,
had so much tenacity and so much willing to grow, even in the hottest grounds, in water depleted
yeah,
grounds. Even if you told this seed
yes,
no, this seed is still going to grow. That's what I saw in you. And as I kind of scrolled past some
right.
of your other profiles and I mean your posts, I started to see the seed in a waterless,
Yeah, yeah.
hard, rocky ground started to open up and bloom.
Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you a little bit about this current page, Tenacious Angels. So when I finished my book, I didn't even know if I was going to write a second book. So at the end of my book, it's even, it's printed in there. I'm glad I had it done. But I was like, I'm going to write Tenacious Angels. So book two is actually the metaphysical view and some legends of Lemuria in it. It's very cool, and it's named Tenacious Angels. My old page, I had almost 40,000 followers,
Mm-hmm.
but I was getting hacked all the time. They were like putting my head on OnlyFans bodies, and I was so embarrassed because
Mm.
no, that is not me. So I just took down that page, and what you said is exactly true. I started Tenacious Angels page in March of last year as the seed of what I needed to intend for this page. Everything on this
Yep.
page is
Notice
very
that.
intentional. And there's a lot of pain when it comes to broken hearts, because when I talk about that God spark, I know I've had these experiences. It is my storefront, but it is my journal that people get to, like, it is a piece inside my mind. And I think it's very important that I share that, because that's how I connect to people and help them feel normal. And I appreciate you saying that I'm intelligent, because I like to think I do, but I'm also very childish. I like to be a kid. I like to have fun. I
Oh
like to
yeah.
have conversations.
Don't,
I like to get.
don't we all need to have? Boys take the
Yeah,
longest to grow up, if that means anything to you. But
right.
um, but what I like about your profile, what I like about seeing the posts, your content you put out, I did see that your posts are intentional and they're purposely
Hmm.
made that way. But it's not made in a way where,
Hmm.
okay, I'm putting out this content and I'm above approach from anyone else. It's not that at all. The energy
Good,
is,
good,
hey, this is me.
good.
I'm opening up my
Yes,
petals to show you what
yes.
the inner bloom, what I look like, and what can happen.
Here I
And
am.
you are just as
Here
beautiful
I
as this bloom that I am in, and you can be, and you can get that
am.
healing, and you can get that power, and you can get the tenacity. And I love that
Yeah,
about your energy and your pulse and your content.
thank you.
And this
Thank you very
this is what
much.
gave me the courage to approach you and message you. Honestly, I only messaged you 2 days ago, and you're like, okay, let's do it. I didn't think you would say
Yeah,
yes.
find some time to do it. You know, and those are the things that I've learned along the way. If it feels good,
Yeah.
and just do it. Fit it in there. You want to make a difference in this world. You want to make a change in this world. You got 168 hours a week, and fit it in there. Fit it in there, and someone will hear this that needs to hear this. Someone will pause tonight or tomorrow or whenever it's replayed. It will cause a ripple effect. This is a beautiful video
And
that
I'll
will cause a
tell
ripple
you this
effect.
much,
And that's
your testimony, your story will be the inspiration that some other mother, some other parent absolutely
yeah,
needs to hear in that time when this video goes live. And
yeah,
it's
yeah, for sure. I'll
intentional
hold it.
that it goes live at certain days. Yep. Okay. Good. We want to talk about that a little bit too. For those of you watching, just joining, I've been coming in and going out. I can see people coming in and going out. We are talking to Kimberly, Tenacious Angels on Instagram. Also, her website, tenacious360.com. Go check her out if you're looking for any
Yeah,
services that she can provide for you. It's all on her Instagram. I do believe you also have a Facebook page as well.
yeah. I have an older Facebook page and a really interesting following over there. And it's very similar to what I have on Instagram, but Instagram is where I get a little
Interactive?
more
Okay.
open with, uh, yeah. And like I said, I'm different with my Instagram. I'm just giving you little nibbles of my brain. And it could be, one day I
Mhm.
could feel extremely sensual, and maybe I just want to write about that because I'm a writer at heart. Writing is the one thing I've never doubted. I write for magazines, I write reviews, I have my own books. Everything that I write on for copy is mine. I love doing it. So I want to share that, those moments where I'm broken, or the moments where I'm just like, I'm just turned on today, or the moments where I'm like, okay, let's be serious about saving the world, whatever is going on in my mind, but I want it to be authentic. I want it to be real
Mhm.
and relatable. Because if I'm not sharing all of these things, then I'm a
Right.
pretend person. If we're just sharing little bits and pieces here and there, we're pretend people. How is that going to make a difference to anyone? I need to show the days I don't have makeup or forgot to put the filter on, like
Yeah.
tonight. It's like it's
And I think
it's real.
that's what people look for when they're searching for someone that they can find or become attuned with is they're looking for the
Right,
genuineness. They're looking for the authentic. They're looking
right,
for the real. Social media
right.
pushes all these things that may not be real. All these things that maybe other influencers find is so important in life. You have to have this certain makeup.
It's it's going away
Right.
though. I'm telling you, it's going away. You know, we're tired of that. I've never really been fascinated with it anyway, but we're tired of is
Yeah.
really, is this all you do? Like, is that it? And what does that mean? How is that?
Oh,
What is
and
it?
and and the product
Here,
is
buy my $1,000
right.
cup that I
Yeah,
kiss.
exactly.
You know, it's like that. We want. We're
Yeah,
tired of this planet the way it is. We're tired of it being so unfair. Like, come on, allow individuality and
yeah.
uniqueness to step up. Just can we just like be unique and creative and make a ripple in our own voice? So I'm telling you, it's changing. Just keep
For
being
those
you.
of you again who are watching, please, if you're not following Kimberly, go find her on Instagram, Tenacious Angels. The replay will be going up on our YouTube channel, The Only Elephant in the Room, probably in the next couple of days. I will put out a post for it.
I love that name, by the
So
way.
I'll tell
I
you
love that
how the
name.
name came up.
It's so cute.
I was talking to
Yeah,
somebody
tell me.
about the brand as well. And through my journey the last few years, I found out that my spirit animal is the elephant. And I've always loved elephants, even as a
Oh,
kid.
wow. Yeah, yeah.
And my original Instagram name was The Elephant in the Room. And it just seemed so plain. And when I tried to put up a YouTube channel, The Elephant in the Room, there were like 31 other pages and or channels. I'm like, I'm going to get
Right,
lost. I need to make myself a little bit more unique.
right,
So over time, thought about it. I got together with somebody else who's a friend of mine and also has her own seat. She's a CEO of her own company. She was our guest earlier last year. She gave me a few pointers on how to kind of change my social media a little bit, and I'm getting better at it. And I think that's something you and I have to talk about a little bit more off off screen, of
yeah,
course. But
yeah, yeah.
um, I changed the name to the only elephant in the room. It's easy to find.
Yeah, I love the name. I mean, it's a little
Yeah,
long, but it's a great name, right? So, like my name for my show used to be That Bitchin' Real Estate Show because you know, I was meeting people through real estate that had stories of overcoming, but like these kids these days, they're like
yeah,
bitchin', what is that? I'm like, oh God. So I
yeah.
changed it to fit my brand, Tenacious Thought. So you know, stick with your name. You can always change it later, even if it's already on iTunes. It's a quick switcheroo. You know, if you end up changing it later, I like it. It's unique, and it makes your guests feel like, you know, I'm the elephant in the room today, right? So,
Well,
because I'm the only
I
one.
mean, I don't want it to come across
No, I
as
like it.
I'm a hoity-toity or whatever you call it, but I
No, I like
only
it.
liked it
I
because
like
it
it.
was
And the
unique and it was easier to find on YouTube. That's why I did it. But
yeah,
there are a
yeah, I
few
like
things
it.
I do want to
Good.
work on because I myself am trying to build myself a brand, and I'm new at it, and
Right.
I'm older, and I'm way older than you are for sure, and I'm learning more about it, and
You don't look it. You don't
I
look
think
it. I would
it's
never have
just the
thought that at
attitude
all.
that gives me with.
It's Hawaii. No, it's Hawaii. If I go there, I'm telling you, like I age backwards. It's crazy. So
Believe
I
me,
need to
it's
go.
nothing in the water. It's nothing in the air. I think it's just the attitude, um,
It's the soil.
possibly.
It's the
But I'll
soil.
say this much:
It is.
going through a divorce about 12 years ago, it was difficult, and I was in a dark space, and alcohol was my best friend,
Oh yeah.
and it just
Oh yeah.
I was trying to find a way to deaden the pain. I was tired of feeling hurt. I was tired of that,
Yep.
and I built up all
We all do.
these
We all
big,
do that.
big beautiful walls around me, my heart, my energy, and everything else that I wouldn't let anybody in. And it took many
Right.
years for me to break these walls down. It took many years
Yeah.
to tell myself it's okay
And
for you to be vulnerable. It's okay for you to love
yep,
again and to be loved. It's okay.
you don't know until you, I mean, you have to fall. That's why it's
Yeah,
a fall. You don't know what's
yeah,
on the other side. You don't. And and that's what I teach is to try to reset sooner rather than later, right? But hey, listen, I gotta go.
okay.
Family's gonna go to bed. Thank you so much for having me on. Tag me on
We'll
the
do.
replay, and
We'll
thank
have
you.
you. We'll
It
have
was a
you come back a
pleasure.
second time. Maybe we'll do one of those sessions that
Okay,
we talked about earlier, if that's okay. All right, Kimberly.
okay,
Thank you again for
good.
joining us. You have a good night. We'll talk to you later. Aloha.
Bye.